All right, so let's get started. Welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you. If you are a brand new user, you're gonna love the things that you are gonna be able to do with RAS Plus. And if you're not a new user and there's something you have questions about, please feel free to ask those questions. I just want to mention this is your support team in your district or in your area. Tony, Angela Romano, she is just a go-to person. She will help you with anything. And then just very quickly, our objectives today, we're going to be learning how to locate those resources that are going to supplement your instruction, understand what things look like from the student side of the platform, and then the kinds of things that you can do to customize the experience for your students. And you may already know that you may already be using RAS Plus resources during your shared reading. So, you are bringing in more complex text, perhaps. You're diving deeper into text. Maybe you're doing that in small group instruction. Maybe you're using this more for independent reading with your students as a way for them to practice their reading, get excited about things. You'll see that they have a library that they have access to that has all kinds of materials. So however you're using the platform, just keep in mind that you are able to access all of the materials. It doesn't matter what grade level you are in. And then I'll also put a link to this. This is just a kind of a busy slide of different ways that you could use RAS Plus in your classroom. And I'll give you a link to that document as well. But I'm going to go right on to the site right now. Now, when you're going in through Clever, it may look more like this, where everything is blue, and that's your management area, that roster area. It may not look exactly like this, but when you first come in, if it's all blue and it says student management, no worries. You can go right up here to the top. And when you click on RAS Plus, it's going to take you to this is the teacher resource side. So when you start to explore initially, you're going to want to see the magenta line here. So let's just talk a little bit about how we navigate in the program so that you're feeling comfortable. I will point out that this guided help button right above the pink ribbon, this is your friend. So if you need to learn anything, if there's something I'm doing and you're like, I don't remember how to add a student, how to make groups on my roster, how to do just about anything, this guided help button will give you step-by-step instructions in pretty much anything you need to do on the site. So keep in mind that that's there. It's also in your management side of things. And then along the ribbon, this is where we're navigating. So in the manage student area, this is where you're going to be able to pop open your roster. You can go right to reports. You can see the assignments you've given or delete assignments. And then you have your in basket. And the in basket, I like to call it my to-do basket because anything that goes into the in basket means that there's something I need to do. So if I give a digital assessment to my students, that information is all going to come into my in basket, and then I'm going to want to do some scoring. If students do a practice recording that is 30 seconds or longer, that's going to come in my in basket. I can message my students, give them feedback. I can even download those recordings. And then if I give a constructed response question with my quizzes, that is also going to go in my in basket. You can see I have a number 1 there. It means I have one thing to do in that basket. Once your students start to do some of those things that you choose to assign, you may see that number going up. So that's the managed student area. Pretty much anytime you see light blue on the site, it's going to be a clickable link somewhere. Then next to that, you have the file cabinet. This is where you are able to, you'll see in the materials that you are able to add things to a file to save them for another time so that you don't have to remember, where did I find that? Where was that? What level was that? Or what drawer was that in? So you have that file cabinet. Then you have this search bar. You can search by title, by topic, by theme, by skill or strategy that you're working on, and even if there's a specific title that you remember that you want to see again, you can search using that search bar. And then finally, right under the RAS Plus sign, the resources. So we're going to start here with resources in just a moment. Before I do that, remember I said the guided help button is your friend for support, but at the bottom of every page, so I'm just going to go kind of quickly. There's a lot of things that you can look at later, but here at the bottom, you have this instructional support area. And this is where you're going to see, if you want to see standard correlations, you want to see more about how to use the projectables or the file cabinet, all kinds of instructional tools here, more about leveling. If you want to know more about the student incentives or giving your parents access to sort of a dashboard of students. And then you've got even professional development resources here where you can sign up for webinars, you can watch recorded webinars. The video library is going to be very quick, 1 to 3 or 4 minute videos on different resources on the site. So that's also another area that you might look at. I am going to show you that you can go to the level correlation chart, and I'm going to pop that open very quickly. And you can see, you can look at it in English or for Spanish, and then you can see that I can filter. Maybe I'm using DRA as a leveling system, or I may be only using Lexile levels, or I can put student ages and I've got their grades filtered. But you can see as I filter for different things, it just adds those correlations in. These letters on the left are the A to Z levels, and then you can see how they correlate with these other different programs. So you can click on or off anything that you want once you have that the way you want it. You can also print that chart and just kind of have it handy with you at any time. And so again, all I did was I went to the bottom of the page to that instructional support area, and there I could find that level correlation chart. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our homepage area. And whoops, I'm just spinning for a moment here. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to go to our, and you can see I have some data here on my reading dashboard. That's because I have students who have done some work. So your students start taking those quizzes and doing those activities, you're going to start to see, you can see the dashboard here. And then again, you can click right to any of those reports right here too. So remember, light blue, clickable link. So that's going to take you lots of places. So I'm going to start here in the resource area. And I like to think of this as a giant filing cabinet. And this is where all of my drawers full of resources are. So starting in the curriculum area, if you wanted to look at a literacy curriculum that's a little more laid out, but if you already have your own curriculum, you are likely going to spend more time in the level text area. You have digital assessments, you have foundational skills area, focused instruction and writing vocabulary and word work, and then we have language area. So this is any books that you need in Spanish or a few other languages is going to be here. So we're going to start in the level text area. And one thing you may have noticed are these little planet symbols. That just means that anything you see that planet near, it means that it is digitally assignable to students. So everything is downloadable and printable. Everything is projectable, and everything is available on the site, and then many things are digitally assignable to students as well. So in this case, books and passages, everything under there is digitally assignable to your students. You can see under assessments, there's a few things that are not digitally assignable. So that's what that little symbol means. So I'm going to start in the level books just so you kind of get an idea, but you can see we have content area text and some additional text here. I will tell you, I love the graphic comic and humor books. Those humor books have a lot of wordless books and books with those thought bubbles. They're very funny. My kids love them. So I'm going to go back to all levels books though. And then I'm going to show you a couple things, and then I'm going to I'm going to let you go in and explore. And then we're kind of going to run our session that way. So when you come into this levels book area, you can see there's all kinds of information on the side. Again, some clickable links. And then you're going to often see this more about area when you go into a resource. So, you may want to take the time to open that. Here, in this case, under levels book, this is where you can also find that level correlation chart. So you don't always have to go to the bottom of the page. You can find it in here as well. But you've got just some tabs, how you might use it, what are the formats. So this is just going to tell you more about whatever the resource is. Now, we love a good filter in Reading A to Z in Raz Plus, because right now I could be looking at over 2,500 books. I don't have time for that. So I definitely want to do some filtering. I'm going to filter by the learning A to Z level, but you could choose by Lexile or grade level. And then I want to open the type of books that I want and filter even more. So I always like to decide if I want fiction or nonfiction first. And then do I want multi-level books? Do I want wordless books? And some things won't come up with certain books depending on the level that you choose, but you know that you can also click any of these filters. You can filter down as much as you want. And you can see when I said nonfiction, it went to 1,500 books, still too many. So when I hover over any of my letters, you can see I get a mini correlation chart. And when I click, I'm just going to pick, I'll pick letter V, and that's a 4th grade level. You can see now I'm down to 68 books, much more manageable, and I could have filtered even more. But as I scroll down, you can see all of the different books that I have available to me. And if I want to choose one, when I hover over any of the books, it's going to give me more information. And so I can just go right to one of those books. So I'm just going to click into a book. And you can see when I hover, I could assign the book from there, but I don't really know anything about the book, so I'm not ready to assign it yet. All of the landing pages, when you're looking at levels books, you're going to see this little thumbnail. I really like to pop through that just because I can see the text features that my students are going to encounter. So this book, in this case, has a table of contents. It has some little boxes coming out. There's some captions. So if I'm working with those kinds of things, some books have a focus question, etc. So that just gives me kind of that quick little view. And then you can see as I scroll down the page, these are all of the different resources that I have. We're going to talk about assigning the text in just a moment, but here I could add it to a folder. I could call it, alternate fuel. I could call it cars. I could call it interesting stuff. I could call it whatever I want. So I could make a file. Anything that you can assign to your students digitally, you can also preview. So if I wanted to know what this looks like when I listen with my students, I can just pop that open.
Alternative Fuel Cars, written by Ned Jensen. Introduction. Every day, people...
So you can see in the listening, it's going to track the words for students. And then when I go to read, this is exactly what it's going to look like when I assign this to my students. They're going to be able to click here near the bottom and see all those different things. One thing that they have, I'm going to just pop that open at the top. They have all of these tools that they can use as well. So the recording feature you can't see on the preview, but students have that open on theirs. They have pens and highlighters and stamping tools, and they can pull out a little sticky note and type answers here. And all of this that they do, they also have a word journal and a reflection journal. So they can add a reflection. It's going to give you all of this information, and they can go ahead and answer a question you've given them. They can give a summary. They can do whatever you want them to do in that reflection journal. They could even do that with the record button. They could record a summary. They could record their answer to a question, whatever you want. And this is all going to go into your reports. And I'm going to show you that shortly. After you have some time to explore and we look at the student side of things, then we're going to go in so you can see, where do I see all of this stuff? All right. So when I scroll down, I can see I'm always going to have a lesson plan. In this case, I also have a supplement. In this particular book, I also have these books as a paired book lesson. So maybe I want to do more of a paired book lesson. That's going to be here. And then anything that's talked about in the lesson plan is going to be here. So you can see in this case, I actually have a worksheet for my reading strategy, my comprehension strategy, grammar and mechanics, and word work. So you can see I can download and print. I can put this in my folder, and I can project it. I highly encourage these think, collaborate, and discussion cards at the bottom because they get at different levels of questioning. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So you're going to see examples of evaluate questions or create questions, or this is a cause and effect question or a sequencing question. So these are really great to use for kids. And you can use them for discussion. You can use them, they can write about it in their reflection journal. The sky's the limit. I will show you now how you can, here is the book if I want to print the book for my students, if I'm not digitally assigning it, and I can project the book. So I'm going to open a projectable because I want you to see what that looks like. And everything on the site, you can open a projectable like this. And then you're going to want to make it full screen for your students to see if you're projecting this. And then you can see on the right, I can toggle to the different pages. And on the left, you can see that I have this toolbar. So on my toolbar, I have pretty much the same tools that my students have. So I have these pens. If I want to go ahead, I can write right on the resource. If I want to highlight something, I can highlight in whatever color I choose. And this feature is one that I love, the text box. This just means the color ink that you're going to get. I want to hover over my resource and click, and now I got a box. Now I'm going to hold down my cursor while I grab the edge of that box. And you can see I can move that anywhere, and I can make it whatever size I want. And then I can type right in here. So what do we know about something, something, something? So one of the things I love about the projectables is you can set this up ahead of time. And if you want to get rid of anything, you are just going to go and reset the page or the book. But if you want to set something up, or you want to keep using the same resource for, maybe you're working on it for the week or for a couple of days, you're going to be able to just close the projectable and everything will save. And when you reopen it, it's all there for you. The other thing I love, you can do some framing. So you can show or hide. So if you have students that, wow, this is too much to look at on a page, I'm just going to show only part of the page. So then I might be doing some teaching. I'm going to take those stamper features, and I love to use my arrow, because now you're looking where I want you to look. So boys and girls, let's talk about, what is this box for? Why are we having this here? Let's talk about what this is all about. So I can do some great instruction here. And then in the upper right corner, you see there's an X in a black box. That's how I close the projectable. And the next time I open it for this particular book, all of those annotations should be there. And they'll be there as long as I don't reset the book. So any questions about any of that so far? And I'm going to let you go in just a minute to explore. I just want to pause for a minute because that was kind of a lot of information.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So does each story allow for students to listen,
Yes.
or is it only specific ones? It's each story?
All of the leveled books allow for listening.
Great,
So,
thank you.
yeah, everything that you see under the leveled text, these leveled books, all of the content area books, they all allow for listening. And you can choose to have listening or not. Yeah, great question. Any other questions?
Awesome.
Don't be shy. Remember, this is your time. I'm going to keep going, but if you think of something, put it in the chat or just unmute and let me know. Here, when you're ready to assign, and this is where it's going to become a little clearer, I'm going to hit that assign button. You can see that my students have popped up on the screen. And right up here, my number one thing I'm going to do is select the activities that I want to assign. So listen, read, and take a quiz is going to automatically be on. You can choose to turn it off. So let's say I have some students that I want to build background knowledge. This particular book was about alternative fuel, but I have some students that they are not able to access that text. So I may just assign them to listen because I just want to build background knowledge, and I can leave the quiz on or not. Or I may have some students that don't need to listen and I'm just going to give them the reading. So it's up to you. I can also include a constructed response question by clicking right there. And then mine's a demo account and I have vocabulary A to Z. That's why you're seeing that. You won't see that on yours if that's not one of your licenses. And then I'm going to just pick my students. Now I made groups on my roster. And so I can just choose the group and it automatically populated those students. I don't have to remember it all the time, or I can just select whatever students I want. So I could give all of these students this particular book. This feature down here at the bottom of the assigning, if you assign right now, it's going to go right into their account, and the next time they log in, they're going to see what I assigned. But if I don't want them to have something until maybe next week, maybe we're not starting this until next Monday or Wednesday, I can set a date, and that's when it's going to drop in for my students. I can also set a due date. Nothing happens if they pass the due date. I don't really ever do anything with that. And then I'm just going to assign, and my students will have that particular resource on their side of things. They have to be, they won't see it until they do a new login. So if you're trying to assign when they're already in the program, they won't see it until they log out and log back in again. So that's just kind of it in a nutshell in terms of what you can see in this level text area, all of these different resources that you have that you might want to take a look at. Before I have you go, I'm just going to point out, you may be more interested in foundational skills. The lessons in decodable text are kindergarten through 4th grade. But 5th grade, if you're a 5th grade teacher, you can certainly look at those and use them as well. Like I said, you have access to everything. And then I want to point out that there are learning centers for a lot of the different areas that you're seeing here. And you're going to find more learning centers in the writing, vocabulary, and word work. So if you're interested in learning centers, that may be where you want to explore right now. In the focused instruction drawer, I feel like this is where I get most of my teaching and instruction, but I will point out the comprehension skill pack. This is where you're going to see this I do, we do, you do for these comprehension skills. You've got close reading passages and close reading packs, or I would also look at shared reading. If I am a kindergarten through 3rd grade teacher And if you look at shared reading, go in and open a projectable with prompts, and you'll see some kind of cool things. So go ahead and explore anywhere you want on the site. And then we're going to take about 6 or 7 minutes, and just about 6 minutes, and just really explore. If you have questions as you are going through, please don't hesitate to ask. Just come off of mute and let me know. Oh, great. Tyra loves the graphic organizers. Tina, you already assigned your students a book? Awesome. Awesome. That's great. And Tyra, the graphic organizers, that's where you can project those, and then you can make those text boxes on the different parts of the text of the graphic organizer, and then type in whatever you want to be typing in. So awesome. So someone asked a question, do they get points when taking a quiz for a book that was at? They get points, they get stars for everything they do. They get stars for answering, for listening to a message that you might send them on the roster. So yeah, they are earning for everything they do, for reading the book, for listening to the book, for taking the quiz, and even trying again if they get some wrong. So yeah, lots of points. Great question. All right, I'm gonna pull us all back together because I wanna make sure that you can see the student side of things. I wanna make sure that you can see all of the different things you can do on the roster. So if you wanna come on back to my screen, one thing that I didn't remember, I told you that you can preview anything that students that you're gonna assign digitally. And I didn't open the actual quiz, but I wanna show you that when it does open on the preview to the correct answers, so be careful if you're sharing that with your class. But if there is a constructed response that you would want to assign, that is always gonna be the last question, and it'll be in a white box, and you can click to that and you can see, is that a constructed response question that I want my students to answer? You can, even on the preview here, start typing here. So you can see, it won't save or anything, but you could model here if you want to. So just so you know, if there is a constructed response, it'll be in that white square, and it'll be at the end of the quiz. And you remember, that's something that you have to decide to turn on if you want that constructed response. Okay? I failed to mention that, but I want to make sure you know that. All right, let's take a look at what the student side of things look like. So let me address a couple of questions. If they read a book in the previous grade, will it block them from doing the work in their current grade? Absolutely not. Whatever you assigned a student is what they have access to work on. So even if they did it in another grade, they don't have those assignments anymore. So you can reassign things. Great question. I have students that are newcomers, and I assign a double A book, but there's no quiz in the double A book. You're right. It starts at level A is where you're going to start to see the quizzes, and up through level G, students can have the quiz question and the answer choices read to them. So I'm sorry, I didn't mention that, but double A books will not have a quiz. All right, so this is what it looks like on the student side of things. If you have primary students, K-2, they're going to see sort of this planet with these rockets that are landing. They will only see flight check if you have a digital assessment assigned to them. Then once they do the assessment, it goes away. So this will just be a blank space. The level up area is the computer generated at whatever level you have set for the child on your roster. The program will populate this area with books only on that level. Students will listen, read, and take a quiz. and they can do any of the books in any order. And then they will, once they finish all of the tasks, the program will automatically move them up to the next level. We want them to pass those quizzes with about 80%. So, and you can turn this area off as well. And I'll show you where. The reading room as well, you can turn it on and off, and you're going to want to customize. Think of it as a trip to the children's library, where they just have lots and lots of resources for independent reading or reading at home or whatever you want to use it for. And then this My Assignment area, this is where you are giving the assignment. Then you can see they have their little dashboard. They can see how many stars they have. They can see their statistics. And if you sent them a message, this is going to be pulsating. Our grade 3 to 5 students have those same areas. It's just more of a drop-down menu. So it's a little more sophisticated. And you can see if they have messages, it's going to be up there in the corner. And they can drop down that menu, click on any of those areas. Once they go in, it looks the same. So let's take a look at what does that really look like. And I'm going to go in as my intermediate student. Your students they're not going to see a roster like this because they're going in through their Clever. But here, and intermediate students can use their stars to change their background. Here she's got messages, and she's only going to see what you have licenses for, so don't worry about that. But she can go to any of these areas. So if I went into the level up assignment, you can see she already started. So that bar here is starting to move. Once she gets done, the program will populate. And you can see, and this will be the same in the assignments area, where if she's read the book, you can see it turns green with a check mark. Here, she read the book and she started taking the quiz. So all of the books, no matter where they are, I'm just going to click this open so you can see, they will not be able to take the quiz until they've read. They can take the quiz before they listen, but they have to have read the book. And here on the right, up at the top of the quiz, they can always go back to the text and look through their text and look for those answers. You can see this student annotated all over the place. And she can pull out her text box. What did she say? And then she can go back to the quiz and continue marking her answers and go on to her next question. And that's the case wherever there's quizzes in Level Up, there's quizzes in assignments, and you can leave the quizzes on in the library or you can turn them off. So when she goes into her assignment area, it's all going to look the same. Single assignment. You're not going to see you won't see this much in their platform. The resources will go away once they've completed everything. Mine's a demo account, so my students don't work very hard. But you can see here, this food group, she already listened and now she needs to read. So these are all the things that I've assigned to her, and she can go to any of the books that I tell her to go to. And then finally, in that library area, you can see anything that I've left on is what she's going to be able to go to. So if she is really into fiction, she can go to the fiction series that's in here. You can see I don't have quizzes on in this area, and she can scroll over. She could view all. Maybe there's graphic, comic, and humor books. So she can pick any area that she wants and go ahead in there and start to read. So it's going to look the same when they go in to primary students, sorry. So if I go in as Erin, okay, I don't see any questions, so you're good, you're good. So when I go in as Erin, I'm going to go to that reading planet, and you can see this is pulsating. So when he opens it, he can see what messages the program has given him and any messages that I've given. So Erin actually has been doing some work, but if I left a message, it'll say Macesatel. So So just so you know, that's there. And then students can log out. And that's basically what it looks like on the student side of things. And from your side of things, here I'm in my resource area, and you want to get to the student management area. You're just going to go to manage students, and you're going to go to your roster, and that's going to open up another window. I'm just going to go this way. Oh, too much time off of the site for me. There I am. Okay, I know it's management because it's all blue. It's always going to bring you to this general tab here under the blue ribbon. There's that guided help, your friend. And then in the general tab here is my roster, and anyone that I'm sharing students with is going to be there. And here I'm going to be able to do a couple of things. This is where I can make my groups. So let's say I have several students that I want to put into a group. Then as soon as I click on one student, it populates that area. I can pop open that pencil for groups and add them to a group that I've already made, or I can add a new group. Yeah, go ahead, Liz, please.
So I wanted to make a quick mention of passwords since you can see them here. If you've been using A to Z for a while, you might remember the password used to be the 300 number. And we were finding your wonderful kiddo that's been so excited about all their stars comes in and is like, my stars are gone. And it was because someone else maybe figured out how to get to where they need the password, and then they know the 300 number, so they'd sign in and use their stars. So we've changed the password to be something not predictable, not something that they would know. They never, ever need it. So you can totally disregard this password because they're signing in through Clever. So just ignore that there are passwords in there. That's just to keep other people from signing in. Students don't need it. Does that make sense, Anne?
Oh, absolutely. In fact,
Okay.
I know when we used Clever, we didn't even see anything in the password area. So, so you may or may not even see that. But that is absolutely true that happens with the stars. And so one of the ways that I have handled that is that I'm going to just deselect some. I'm going to select all of my students. And I'm going to go over here to this incentive bar. This allows me to turn on and off their ability to spend their stars. They'll still earn stars, but I can turn off their ability to spend those stars. So I used to turn it on for Fun Friday, turn it off for, the rest of the time. And then I knew that they were working on the things that I wanted them to work on. So you can turn it on and off all day long, as many times as you want. This is also showing you what portal your kids are looking at. Chances are they'll all be looking at the same thing. And then I can send messages here. So when I click on that, this is going to send to 12 selected students. I could select 1 student, 3 students, 19 students. I can record a message or type a message. I'm showing you this because this is one area where when I send the message, I can send more stars. So if that happens to a student and they lose stars and you know about how many they have, you can send them a couple of messages and rebuild up that star bank, which makes them feel really good. So just keep that in mind, but this is an area. And again, in the guided help, if you're not sure what to do, it's up here, okay? So all that on the general tab, and then right next to that is the RAS Plus tab. And that's where I'm going to see all of my students' levels that have been assigned for the placement tool. My advice with the placement tool is if you have a student and it says that on your roster, if you have information about them, I would just assign them a level, because the placement tool, it's just a guesstimate. And if they don't if they don't really look at those questions and really do the reading, they can end up with a very low reading level. And like you've got a 5th grader who gets a level D book and you know that they're not, you're going to change it anyway. But here, if you want to change anybody's level, you can do it right in there with that drop down. And here, Amaya is a level M. but I could switch her. So let's say she's doing her level up and she doesn't want to listen to the books, but she's passed all her quizzes, she's done all the reading. I could just change her level and then her level up area will repopulate. So, and then if I select my students, this is also where I can turn off that level up so she's not seeing it right now or the whole class isn't seeing it. Whatever works, whatever works for you. And then here in the reading room, again, I can turn it on or off, or I definitely want to customize. I'm just going to show you very quickly why you want to customize. Here I can say, oh, I don't want quizzes. Whatever you want, you can put leveled books and then have levels below. So I want her to be able to look at 2 levels below and 3 levels above. So she has lots of resources. But as I scroll down, I can see everything is on. And I want to customize because you can see some of these books are for different levels. And maybe I have a kindergartner who doesn't really need 4th and 5th grade level books in their reading room. I'm not using trade books, so I'll just turn that off. Anything else. So you can just deselect anything you don't want. These are all from that focused instruction drawer. The slider means the grade level materials they will get. I actually tend to turn these off because I like to use them for my instruction, and then I might turn them on later. But up to you. And again, you're just going to go down, turn them on, turn them off. The Ignite books are the high interest, low readability. And that's where you can turn those on for your 3rd grade and up. All right, I see there's a question. Go ahead with your question. Oh, one last thing before you do. Make sure you save and close before you exit out of there. And then that reading room will be customized. And I would do everybody all at once and then just sort of tweak it for a couple of kids. All right, Clarissa, what's your question?
I think you kind of just answered it. So
okay.
to make sure you're clicked on each student. I have kindergarten, so I don't want them to have, those 4th, 5th grade books. So I would go and click through all the students and
I would just do all
off.
of my students, go in, go to the reading room, go to customize, give them all the same thing for now. And then it's much easier that way. I don't do it on my demo account. It just doesn't seem to work. I don't know. They don't come up right. But yeah, great question.
Thank you.
And then just a couple more things. I know we're getting to the end of our time. This hour always goes so quickly. If you are working with other teachers and you share students, let's say you have different groupings of students for your reading time, or maybe it's an intervention time or whatever, you can share in students with each other. That allows the students to have only one password, and it allows you teachers to each be able to make assignments and see their report. So that's another great feature. If you don't see that on your account, Liz, that would be something that you could just contact whoever your A to Z support, Angela, probably Angie Romano, and ask them to turn that on. It's just a turn on. So if they don't see that, and again, that's in the guided help. So I'm not really going to go over how to do it, but it is in that guided help. And what I want to get to finally is the reports. And so here, when I pop into reports, it's always going to start at student activity. And again, I want to make sure that I do some filtering. I'm going to filter for all days because of a demo account, but you can customize that filter to look at whatever kind of dates you want. And then when you want to see the annotations that the students have done and listen if they did a recording in those annotations, the easiest way is to go to the assignments reports. You do have a skills report, which is awesome, but I'm going to go to the assignment report. And you can look at your students by group or by individual students. I tend to filter by the actual assignment that I gave. So we did a book, Amazing Beaches. I had a couple of students I can see right away. Kateri and Adrian, I can see that they listened, they read. I can click right into their quiz. You're going to see a lot of different clickable links right here where it says student annotations. you can click in and see exactly what they've done. And it's great for kids to know that you can see this as well. If there's a recording, that'll be highlighted. You'll be able to listen to it with the green arrow. And then I can pop out anything she has written. And I can see that she did some highlighting. I can see she answered one of the discussion questions that we had. And I can just basically see what she's doing in here. So the question was, what beach would you visit? And she answered that in her with a text box. So again, I just went to reports. I went to the assignment report and I filtered for the actual book, but I could filter by groups of students as well. And everything you see here is clickable. So anytime you see something blue, you can click right into that student. If you're in the student activity report, I could click in and see more about Amaya or Corey or Aaron. And that's where I'm going to see. I can print all of these reports and I can download them. So any questions about any of that? I know that was a lot. You're going to get used to some of these things. I mean, this is just an overview. So I just want you to kind of see where things are and how to navigate. When I want to go back to the teacher side of things, I'm just going to click on that RAS Plus. It's going to take me back to the pink, and that's where all of my resources are. You can only assign one digital assessment at a time. Students will only see one per login that they come into. So be careful that you're not, oh, I'm going to set up all of my assessments right away. You don't want to do that. Any questions about any of the roster area? I can just go right back to my roster or the report area. All right. Well, I hope that this was helpful.
Erin, can I ask you one question before we go?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you maybe give a couple starting points for people who are new and have just seen a bunch of things? Where would you start? What would you do first?
I would definitely start in the leveled book area, because I think that is the easiest way to, I get a lot of different resources with a particular book. And I would also start with, maybe there's a theme that you're working on. So maybe it's just, I'll just do fall in the search button. And that's going to give me maybe by a theme, or maybe I'm working on sequencing and I can type in. And then again, you're going to get a lot of books and you want to do some filtering. So I can filter for the levels that I'm looking for. I always filter right away for language, because that helps me not have to wade through different languages. And then I can see there are a whole bunch of books at the level D, or I could just leave all of the levels off and see what I have out here. So I would start with either searching for your theme or for your skill, or I would start in the resource area under the leveled book. And then if you start to see, if you want to do some more instruction, either the foundational skills or the focused instruction area, those are going to be very helpful as well.